Mutual aid. Our family's living on the streets, while the hands of a few are holding more than they could ever need, guarding their hoard like a dragon in a lair. Do we really care what is fair? There's nothing quite like mutual aid to satisfy all of our needs. Living in solidarity, 'cause we're all branches of the same tree. So let's topple white supremacy like a tower of stones. It will crumble down into the sea, followed by the patriarchy. From the ruins grow 1,000 different colored seeds. There's nothing quite like mutual aid to satisfy all of our needs. Living in solidarity, 'cause we're all branches of the same tree. Searching for answers at the core, we bow our heads to the ones who've done this work before. We're men of color, gathered seeds to lay this path. Their legacy will ever last. There's nothing quite like mutual aid to satisfy all of our needs. Living in solidarity, 'cause we're all branches of the same tree. Yes, we're all branches of the same tree.
Good morning, and welcome to the virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Shenandoah Valley. My name is Spence Foscue, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. These are words from the Tao Te Ching. Best to be like water, which benefits the 10,000 things, and it does not contend. It pools where humans disdain to dwell, close to the Tao. Live in a good place. Keep your mind deep. Treat others well. Stand by your word. Keep good order. Do the right thing. Work when it is time, only do not contend, and you will not go wrong. There are a few announcements this week. Small groups are invited to the recording of Reverend Carter's sermon on the weeks that he is in the pulpit at noon on Wednesdays at 500 Montreat Road. Attendance is limited to 15, and you will need to sign up with our administrator. Vespers services will begin on Monday, August 10th at 5 p.m. I believe that capacity has been reached for this one, so you will have to wait for the next one, which will be in October. Vesper services are a 45-minute service with homily by the Reverend, meditation, and listening to recorded music. So I hope you'll find time to attend. And finally, in November, we'll be having our auction fundraiser. It will be virtual, but we will be looking for the same services and good things to bid on as we did last year, and when our auction was very successful, and we hope for the same this year. So look for announcements and information in the newsletter. And now, let the service begin.
Welcome to all of you for tuning in once again to our Sunday service here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley, here in the beautiful mountains of Black Mountain, North Carolina. Got some nice opening words this morning so we can set the tone for compassion. This is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm asking you to come down off the ladder and wash out that paintbrush of yours. Shake the sand out of your shoes, get up off your muddy knees, and give the garden a morning off. Give yourself a morning off. Fold up the newspaper, turn off the coffee pot, close up your calendar. It's already filled with dates and times and people and places that claim you. This church is ready for you to fill its rooms this morning, to create its spirit, to generate its warmth, and to kindle its light. This church is ready for you to make community, to create beauty, to bend it towards justice, and to serve its ideals. This church is ready for you to be here, honoring our past, invigorating our present, and dreaming our future. This is your church. Here we are home. Here you are home. Here we are whole. Let us begin. Okay, please join with us in singing our opening hymn this morning, hymn number 39, Bring, O Morn, Thy Music. Hymn number 39. Our reading this morning is from the wisdom of the Chinese sage Lao Tzu. If there is to be peace, if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And if there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. And if there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. As many of you know, this is the time in the service where we invite you to share a joy, a concern, a sorrow. We do this so that we can build community, obviously, but we can also find out what's going on in the congregation, who's in need of pastoral care. It strengthens us when you share your joys and sorrows, and this is a safe place to do that. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
This week, we had two concerns emailed in from Larry Perlman. It's in regards to his girlfriend, Marty Saltzman, and her father, who is 103 years old. He fell this past week and broke his hip, and since he has had 5 heart attacks in the recent years, surgery is not a good option. He will be receiving hospice care in the care center where he lives. Please keep Larry's girlfriend and her family in your thoughts and prayers. In addition, Larry's brother-in-law, Paul Winkler, had a hernia surgery this past week. They're in New Jersey and have been out of power for 2 or 3 days this week. The surgery went well, and he is now back at home with power restored, but he is still experiencing a lot of pain in certain situations. Again, please keep Larry and his family in your thoughts.
My joy is that I get to hold a duck today. Can't you see him? Hi, he's running. It's a girl. So my joy is that we finally got ducks. And this one's name is T. And they're all girls. So because Pop wants them to lay eggs so he can eat them.
What if the baby?
So, and this one's name is T.
This one's
And
name
it's
is
a grayish. That one's name is Comedy. And yeah, my joy is that we get to have baby ducks. Bye.
Bye.
I want to thank you for those who wanted to share just a slice of what's going on in their lives. For those of you who did not feel so moved, know that we keep you in our hearts and in our minds, and that we are here if you need us. So thank you again. Okay, I want to take the time, as we usually do this morning, and you center yourselves however you see fit at home, and for those of you here this morning. I want to begin just by saying that we take this time, we come here, we come to this church, we come here because it's a time to grow our souls. And we are grateful. We may not have everything we want. We may not have perfect health, but we do have health. We may not have all the things that we want, but we have the things that we need. And so we take this time this morning to be still and to say, thank you. Thank you for the love, the friendship. Thank you for the challenges that make us stronger. And I want to share with you a brief meditation called When the Past Arrives. Gather what you can, for we must leave now. Gather what you must, for hatred is marching and we are no longer safe. What shall we take? Time is running out. The way from here will be rough, and we'll make justice as we go along. Take only what you can carry. Carry me, history cries, carry me. From her wrinkled mouth, history begs, carry me lightly in your hearts. Gather what you can into your hearts. The present moment has arrived, and we must leave much behind. And now for this moment, this brief moment, while our minds are one, I leave you all with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. Amen. We have a treat. As you know, this is our second Sunday, and we usually have an artist who will share with us. And so our board member and just an all-around wonderful guy, Spence, will be sharing with us something called Be Like Water.
A perfectionist. Never have I been seeking out the easy path, bending when I need to bend. Be like water, which benefits 10,000 ways. Be like water and settle where one needs to stay. Trying to be flexible and yield when I need to yield. Use the force when it must be used. Wear down stony barriers. Be like water when it cannot be withstood. Be like water and live in a place that's good. Be like water and benefit 10,000 things. Keep good order and try to do the right thing. Be like water, dwelling it stays underground. Be like water, in expression it is true. And confronting it is gentle, forgiving the wrongs you may do. Be content within your nature and take what comes to you. Be like water, which benefits 10,000 ways. Be like water and settle where one needs to stay. Be like water when it cannot be withstood. Be like water and live in a place that's good. Be like water. Be like water.
You know the church needs you, your time, your talent, and your treasure. And with that in mind, we are grateful for the gifts that we receive. I will thank you ahead of time Again, the words of William James, the greatest use of life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. And when you are gone and when I am gone, this congregation will still be here, but only when you give, when I give, and we give generously. And so with that spirit, I ask for this morning's offering, and I thank you ahead of time for your generosity. Today, I want to make the case for compassion. I know it seems like in this day and time, with all that is going on, that people seem to have lost their minds and forgotten about compassion. I don't think that's true. I think people have compassion fatigue. And of course, there are always going to be those who just kind of not there. But the Dalai Lama says that compassion belongs to the category of human emotions which have a more developed cognitive component. That's just a fancy word of saying that compassion is a blend of empathy here and reason. When we practice compassion, the gifts of practicing compassion is that we have more strength and peace and joy, and we get to transfer that. We get to give that out to the world with whomever we associate. Now, in the West, we call it love. In the East, it's referred to as compassion. I personally like that distinction because in my experience, love is so easily misunderstood somehow and can easily be mistaken for dysfunction, for sacrifice, or even martyrdom. It's also very difficult to live up to this idealized concept of love here in the West. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. The Dalai Lama it represents an aspect of the Buddha, he being a male, and Buddha being a man. The Dalai Lama is said to represent the male characteristic of compassion. Perhaps Miriam, in our tradition, and I mean in the West, the mother of Jesus, is the closest we in the West come to as a female figure who is the embodiment of compassion. But whatever you want to call it, you can call it what you want. Love, compassion, we're no strangers to it. We know compassion when we see it. We know compassion when we feel it. All people receive their own measure of sorrow and struggle in life. And when we empathize with other people, when we're deeply moved by the pain and suffering of others, that is called compassion. For instance, our bodies will age. You may not believe it, but they will age. Health becomes fragile. Minds can be beset by confusion and obsession. Our hearts get broken. We see many people asked to bear unbearable things. What happened in Beirut yesterday, this explosion? People going about their daily lives. Starvation, tragedy, and hardship. People go through these things. Some things I can't even imagine going through. Our loved ones experience illness and pain and heartache, and we want to ease their suffering. We want to help them. The human story is a remarkable story. It's a story of love and redemption and kindness and reconciliation and generosity. And it's also a story of violence, of division and neglect and cruelty. Faced with all of this, we have choices. We can soften our hearts and reach out and do all we can to ease that suffering, or we can flee from it. We can build a wall around ourselves, living in fear and denial, doing all we can to keep our hearts from being touched, afraid of drowning in the ocean of sorrow. We can and do experience what is called compassion fatigue, especially those of us in service industries, when you're working in a hospital, or you're a minister, or you're a chaplain, or whenever you're giving service. There is such a thing. And we become overwhelmed. And we can't take in, we become numb. Again and again, we are asked to learn one of life's clearest lessons, that to run from suffering To harden our hearts and turn away from pain is to deny life and to live in fear. So as difficult as it is to open our hearts towards suffering, it's the only way that I know it's the only direct path I know to transformation and liberation. To discover and to awaken our own hearts, we have to make sure we do not romanticize compassion. Our compassion simply grows as ordinary people, right? We're not saints. Ordinary people willing to meet pain rather than to run from it. Now, compassion and wisdom are at the heart of all genuine spiritual teachings. All genuine spiritual teachings talk about compassion. In the early dawn of human history, our ancestors were asking the same questions that we are asking. How can we respond to the suffering that is woven into the very fabric of life? How can we discover a heart that is truly liberated from fear and anger and alienation? Is there a way to discover a depth of wisdom and compassion that can make a difference in this world? The answer is yes. Now, we may be tempted to see compassion as a mere feeling, as sentiment, an emotional response we occasionally experience when we are touched by an encounter. In those moments of openness, the layers of our defenses, they crumble. Intuitively, we feel an immediate response. We glimpse the power of non-separation. Milarepa was a great Tibetan sage, and he expressed this when he said, "Just as I instinctively reach out to touch and heal a wound that I have on my body, I reach out to touch and heal the pain in another as part of the body of humanity." And too often these moments of profound compassion fade, and then we forget about it, and we build these walls back around ourselves. No matter how hard we try, we can't make ourselves feel compassionate. We can incline our hearts toward compassion, though. There's a story I want to share with you about an elderly monk who arrived in India. He was fleeing from prison in Tibet, and he was meeting with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama was asking him, how did you endure the beatings, being imprisoned, the hunger and the loneliness he lived with, and the torture how did you do that? And at one point, the Dalai Lama said to the monk, "Was there ever a time that you felt that your life was truly in danger?" The old monk answered, "Yes. In truth, the only time I truly felt at risk was when I felt that I was in danger of losing compassion for my jailers." Now, we hear stories like this. We're like, wow, what kind of person is this? We may be tempted to idealize both those who are compassionate and the quality of compassion itself. We imagine these people as saints. They have powers that we don't have. But these are ordinary people, like you and I, doing extraordinary things. Our compassion simply grows out of our willingness, again, to meet the pain rather than to run from it. Now, granted, we may never find ourselves in situations where our lives may be in danger, yet anguish and pain are aspects of our lives. None of us can build walls around our hearts that are invulnerable to being breached by life. Facing the sorrow we meet in this life, we have a choice. Now, if we choose the higher angels of our nature, then we agree with John Lewis, but he was talking about democracy, but I say the same thing with compassion. Compassion is not a state of being, it's an act, because you have to act on your feelings. Compassion is a way of engaging with a fragile and unpredictable world. Its domain is not only for the people you love and care for, it's for the people who disturb us. It's for the people who cause us harm. It's for the people who threaten us as well. Wait, what's the big deal if you're just loving people who love you? It is the world of countless beings we never meet who are facing life with their backs against the wall. To cultivate the willingness to listen deeply to sorrow is the first step on the journey of compassion, being able to listen. It's not about not getting involved. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to get your hands dirty. Now, it doesn't always demand heroic acts. It just means I need you to be there. Not to fix, not to heal, not to give advice, not unless it's asked for, but just to know that you are there. Because then you start to sense the loneliness. You get to see beyond the masks that people are wearing, beneath the anger and the frustration and the arrogance. There's a broken heart. There's a broken heart. And we begin to hear the cries of that heart when we take the time to listen and to be there. This is called awareness, and it can only come about in intimacy. We cannot always change the heart or the life of another person. That's not what we're called to do, but we can take care of our own state of mind. Can we let go of resentment and judgments and fear, even just for a little while? Can we listen to another person's point of view about their world? Can we try to understand that? Can we find the courage to remain present when we want to run like you know what the other way? Can we find forgiveness? Can we at least try? Compassion is a journey, and every step of the way helps us to become wise. The etymology of the word says compassion is the ability to feel with, and that involves empathy. Genuine compassion does not have boundaries or hierarchies. The smallest anguish is just as important as the greatest tragedy when you have compassion. Those we love and those we disdain are asking for that from us. Compassion is the liberated heart's response to pain. In closing, I just want to leave you with this. Some people, and we are those people at times, carry a long history of thinking we're not worthy. We deny ourselves. It's difficult to extend compassion to other people. The Buddha once said that you could search the entire world and not find anyone more deserving of compassion than yourself. Christianity says we must love our neighbor as we love ourselves, but we don't use the latter part of that sentence. We usually don't mention that. Yet instead, too many people find themselves being harder on themselves than they are to other people. This is not healthy. You deserve the compassion. The benefit of the doubt you give to someone else, give it to yourself. You deserve that. We recently honored the life of Congressman John Lewis, and he was familiar with compassion. His liberal Christian faith was the template. He was a man of deep feeling and compassion. To stand up and to speak out for justice is the deepest meaning of compassion. Indeed, we could argue that genuine compassion means advocating for justice. Dr. King reminds us to be creative dissenters who will call our beloved community to a new plateau of compassion, to be a more noble expression of what it means to be human. That is why all genuine spiritual and humanist paths make the case for compassion. The path of compassion, remember, is cultivated one step at a time. You cannot rush it. So be gentle with yourself along the way. For each one of those steps chips away at the mountains of sorrow in the world. Anyway, this is the case that I make for compassion. Long live compassion. May it always be so. Amen, and blessed be. All right, we had a wonderful service. I hope you enjoyed the message this morning. Our closing hymn, number 122, Sound Over All Waters, one of my favorites, hymn number 122. Our closing words as we leave this morning are short but to the point. If your compassion does not include yourself, then it is incomplete. I leave you with that. Have a wonderful week.
There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. Train to Jordan is picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. Open the doors and board. There's hope for all among those love the most. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There ain't no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. So people get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. No, you don't need no ticket, just